That's good.
Still it's predominantly women who come for water exercise
Yeah.
and swimming, I think. I'm referring to our age group. Yeah.
Yeah. And you believe in bringing the generations together. You've created a film festival for grandparents and grandchildren. Where did that idea come from, and how is that going?
Well, as I said, I got interested in doing research on what grandparents and grandchildren learn about health and nutrition uh, as part of my training in medical statistics and health promotion. So, in the process of doing that work, which is essentially case studies and so on, I often ask if they've read any picture books with grandparents. So then I started helping people to get picture books with stories of grandparents in it. And then one day I was volunteering for different film festival, and one day I just reflected, why are there no films with elders or grandparents? And that triggered me to create the Grandparents Film Festival. And it took me 20 years to find 200 films. And most,
Wow.
so they are very rare. If I find 10 films per year, that's very good. Uh,
Hmm.
and then initially I wanted to get films with both grandparents and grandchildren, but then out of 200, I only got 20. So I started collecting films with elders or without the grandchildren. So it's working well in a sense. I work with all the film festival to ask them to select films with grandparents and go to film schools and tell them to make films with grandparents. So I'm very successful in that area because now there are more and more films uh, in the film festival with stories of elders.
That is a beautiful thing that you've done. And one thing I would like to ask you is that you mentioned earlier that you grew up without grandparents. So what spurred that recognition of the importance of that connection with grandparents for you?
Mhm.
Well, the thing was, as I said, my my parents were quite elders when I was born,
Mm.
Mhm.
relatively. I mean, so and my siblings got married before I was born. So my so I grew up with a lot of nephews and nieces, which they and my parents were grandparents. So I knew about them, but my interest at that time was not really looking at my parents as grandparents, except I when I went to school, my parents came there. They would always tell me, "Your grandparents are very cool." So I said, "Yes, they are very cool," because I use the word grand and the parents as a
Hmm.
grand an adjective rather than grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, got it. Got it.
Uh-huh.
That
So
is,
so to
that's,
me, elders was part of my life.
well, you've devoted your life to in studies in gerontology and studies of elders. And as you know, in Canada, we still have an issue with ageism and abuse. Um, how do we actually how do we dismantle these problems in Canada? Because I see this a lot. People have been let go from work because they started, you know, they're in their 50s or 60s. Like, what would how do we as a society uh, come together to dismantle it? Is there a way to do that?